so I decided to cut most of my hair off, and it was long for a really long time. I did really like it. The only problem is that I just felt like I wanted a change, and I didn't really like it that long anymore. I kept scraping it up into a bun, so in the end I just cut most of it off, and I'm really happy that I did it because I feel more like myself, which is awesome. I'm glad that it worked out and I didn't hate it. I mention this because a lot of the videos that I watch on YouTube that I really like are a lot more personal, and I like it because you get to see the person rather than just the things that they do, and I think as an artist it's probably really good to see the artist as well as the art itself. So it's something I really want to try and do more of, so if it's something that you guys think is a good idea, let me know. I think I would really like to. It's a bit scary, but I do really want to try and do that a bit more. So I thought to start off with, it would be good to show you guys the illustrations that I grew up with, that inspired me as I was growing up, and also the illustrations that still inspire me today. To start off with, I'm going to start with my favourite illustrator of all time, and that is Arthur Rackham. And I'm not only just lucky enough to have a book about him, but I'm also lucky to have two books. One is a first edition and the other is a second edition. So I have The Tempest, and it's illustrated beautifully by Arthur Rackham, and the detailing on the front is gorgeous. But this is one of my most prized possessions because I got it as a present for Christmas, and it's a first edition from 1926, which is awesome. And not only that, but there's a lovely little note just in the front of the book, which is just a little personal note from years gone by, and it just makes the book 10 times better, and it adds so much history to it. But the illustrations in this are beautiful. The reason why I love Arthur Rackham's work is because not only does he create illustrations for things that I love, like kind of whimsical fairy tales and fantasy, but he also, the way he does it, it's the different sizes of his line work, when he uses very thin to very thick. And that's something I've always really admired, and it just gives such a beautiful flow to every piece of his work. It's amazing, and I can never get tired of looking at a piece of his work. And the second Arthur Rackham book I have is Gulliver's Travels by Jonathan Swift, and this one is a second edition from the early 1900s. And the line work is just phenomenal once again, and I just love this book in general as well, because not only are the illustrations fantastic, but also the binding of the book is beautiful. So I'm very lucky to have these two books in my possession, and I would love to collect more going on through the years, so hopefully I will keep an eye out for other Arthur Rackham titles. But I do have another book which is A Life with Illustration, an Arthur Rackham book about him and about his work. So I love anime and manga, and my first introduction into it would have been Pokemon, and then I got into Cardcaptor Sakura and stuff like Fruits Basket, and then my love for it just continued on. But specifically Cardcaptor Sakura, especially with the artwork, because the artwork for all the Cardcaptor Sakura mangas were just beautiful. There was nothing about it I could fault. The ruffles on the dresses, the way that they drew the hair, I loved everything. So it's something I like to look back at every now and again just to marvel at how wonderful it is. So in more recent times, I really like the art style of stuff like Adventure Time and Bravest Warriors. Not only do I like just watching the episodes, but I just love the art style. It's so cool. I think I love the noodly arms and the happy little faces of everyone. I think it's a very joyful art style, and I appreciate it dearly. So when I was in uni in particular, and just beforehand as well, this kind of stems from my love for video games. I started playing video games when I was about 3. It's always been in my life, so it never felt like... it just felt like a way of life, really. But it was only up until about uni time and around then when I really started to appreciate concept design and concept art, because it was just absolutely gorgeous. I was so envious of how amazing these people were that were able to create these environments, these set designs, these characters, everything about it. They were so skilled, and it was something I really looked into more when I was in university, because I studied animation and we did a lot of looking into video games as well. I was in love with it then, and I'm still in love with it now. It's another form of art that I just am so in awe of. So I used to collect a lot of concept design books, but I've only kept a few of them because, to be honest, they're rather big and they're a bit heavy. But I've kept my favourites, and I have some of them which are from some amazing games. One of them is Dragon Age Inquisition, Alice Madness Returns, The Art of Bioshock 2, and my little baby one, Child of Light. So some of my favourite recent comic artists and illustrators that I love to read and to look at are Katie Green and Ryan Andrews. So I found Katie Green through her book Lighter Than My Shadow, and this book is such a heart-wrenching, emotional and personal journey, and the artwork beautifully complements that emotion. It really does. Especially with the textures that she uses. So the next illustrator is Ryan Andrews, and I first saw his work when I read his comic Sarah and the Seed, which really drew me into his work because the way that he did the panels was so interesting, and the layout of the comic itself, that it just drew you into the story. It was really amazing. So the reason why I'm so interested in fantasy and fairy tales now is because as a child I loved it too, and I have so many wonderful books that I had growing up that was incredibly inspiring to me even today. And one of my favourite books, or rather I should say one of my favourite picture books of all time, is Blue Moon Mountain. And I got this when I was really young. I actually can't remember exactly when I got it, but I remember when I first saw it, I thought I had never seen anything so beautiful. And it was just, it changed everything. I can't explain it. So it was illustrated by Nikki Palin, and I didn't just love it because it had unicorns and mermaids and the Kraken and griffins and gorgons and dragons. It wasn't just because those creatures were in there. It was also because they drew them almost like how I thought they would look like in real life. They drew them almost in a semi-realistic way that was just, it made me feel like they were real. And that, as a child, was everything. Oh, I can't even... I'm looking at it now and I haven't actually seen this in a while. And it's just really good. And another massive piece of my childhood was Winnie the Pooh. A proper classic, and I have the complete collection of stories and poems, and I love this because there's a load of illustrations by E.H. Shepard in there. So looking through this book, it's quite nostalgic because this is one of the books that was read a lot to me as a child, and I remember lots of different pieces of it, and I don't just remember the poems and the stories because I was read to, but also because the illustrations allowed me to remember them. And they were so descriptive and quirky and fun, and I love the way that they're all drawn. So I had a book called Animalia, and I think that's how you pronounce it, but it is a beautiful book with so much illustration work in it. It's just incredibly detailed, and on every page it's dedicated to a letter of the alphabet. So for example, on the page that is dedicated to B, the illustrator has only illustrated everything that begins with a B. And it was really great. It was such a fun way to like look through an illustration and always find new things about it. There's always new things that I miss and I find these days. So those are the illustrations that I have looked up to from when I was very small to now, and I hope you guys enjoyed this little journey. So let me know in the comments if there is anyone out there that really inspires you, or any piece of work that inspires you. I would love to hear it, because let's share. Thank you guys so much. Bye bye.